views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV.
So sexy it hurts, and I'm too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York and Japan.
Hey everybody, welcome back, and I gotta say that our viewership has almost doubled in the last couple of months. So I really feel sorry for all you people out there that have been on lockdown, stuck in your houses, and we're the last thing on your list. You have gotten so desperate that you're watching us more and more. So we appreciate it. Today, and some of you may already know one of my guests here. It is the inevitable Alex Falconi. Not the guy from Gotham,
No.
right?
No.
Okay, that's another Alex Falconi.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the mafia.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's Brittany Falconi down there.
Yeah,
Did you lighten your hair or something?
I did.
Okay, because the last time I saw you, I thought you had pretty
Red.
dark hair.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
kind of red. Yeah.
So, anyway, you want to know what the hell are they doing there? Who are they? Alex is the administrator. Is that correct?
That's correct.
For a website called Our Nevada Judges, which to me is one of the most valuable websites of anything here in Southern Nevada. Well, in Nevada. And just so I don't screw it up, explain to people what is Our Nevada Judges.
So our Nevada Judges initially started out as just a website that contained detailed information on the judiciary, every single judicial district in the state, and also each of their corresponding judicial departments. It grew in July of 2019 into, I'm not going to say just a media outlet because we still do the statistics and stuff, but now it includes what they call electronic coverage of judicial proceedings. That's the formal name for it. We call it putting a camera and pointing it at the judges and lawyers in the courtroom. But that's what it's sort of evolving into, and it's hard to say really where it's going to end, because as we enter the 2020 election, we started to get a lot more involved in the election as well. And in fact, we're sort of defining ourselves as we go, so this is an answer that could change over time. But for now, that's what our Nevada Judges
Cool.
is.
So if I want to know something about a judge, I can go to your website and find out. What can I find out about them?
So-
What information do you provide?
So we have judicial profiles and candidate profiles. The judicial profiles...
Wait. You have candidate profiles now?
Yeah, we do.
When did that start?
Well, it started in 2014, but people didn't really know about it until recently.
Well, no
because
shit. I didn't know about it.
as we started to get into the elections, and as we started to provide electronic coverage, more and more viewers came forward and started to notice that we had all this other stuff. So we've always had it. In fact, we had all of the candidates going back to 1864. So we put all that information in there. And this is just for the district judges and the Court of Appeals judges and the justices of the Supreme Court. We don't have the information on the justices of the peace or the municipal court judges yet, but we will be getting that probably into our system within the next year, at least the active ones. The candidates and stuff going all the way back will take some time. But for the judicial profiles, you can get the error rate, which is actually one of the most popular things that people want to look at. The error rate is how often a judge makes a mistake. And those mistakes are not determined by regular old people or even by us. They're determined by the Supreme Court of Nevada and the Court of Appeals. And you can also get articles, so articles that have been published by what I call original media
Right.
articles that have been put out there, like by maybe CNN or Las Vegas Review Journal, Las Vegas Sun, Reno Gazette Journal. All that stuff is compiled. The candidate profiles include articles as well, but they'll also have a list of endorsements and a list of what we call achievements right now. We might change it title later, but that would include like scholarly writings, awards that they've earned, and stuff like that. Obviously, an active judge is also a candidate because they had to get elected, so
Right.
they'll have both profiles.
Right.
And a candidate that's just running would just have only a candidate's profile. You can find that all on the website.
So if I wanted to, I mean, to me, and this has always been the hardest part of going to the voting booth, and that is that most of us know absolutely nothing about judges.
Right.
I mean, I know a few because I've been in front of them, but I mean,
Right.
you know, other than that, we have no clue.
Right.
And there's no real place. This is the first place that I found. It's been, what, a year and a half ago now that I ran into you, or it's a place I can go and see. And when you say mistakes, that's kind of misleading a word, isn't it?
Well, it is, because most of the public doesn't understand the role of the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals.
Right.
Most of the public perceives an appeal to be a do-over by a sore loser. And in fact, that's language I used in the white paper I published a couple of weeks ago. What it actually is they're reviewing the judge's decision to see if he made a mistake. And this is an idea also that
Wait, every decision?
only the decisions that people file an appeal on.
Okay,
which
and
is-
that's what I'm saying. The only ones that they're looking at, or some sore loser has said, I want to file an appeal.
that's what the average.
And I don't mean that. you
Yeah,
know,
right.
But
So the reality is that judges can make mistakes, and this is something people struggle with as well. A lot of people, when they see like maybe Judge Judy or the People's Court, they just assume that whatever the judge is saying is the law, and there's a right and a wrong litigant, but nobody really understands there's a right and a wrong judge. Some people sometimes disagree with it, but they think, well, that's the law. In reality, judges abuse their discretion all the time, and that's what the role of the appellate courts is to review these cases to determine whether or not the judge did not follow the law or abuse their discretion or did some other type of judicial misconduct that's come up before as well. And when these things occur, the Supreme Court intervenes and overturns a decision. So it isn't really just a do-over. They're almost being graded as if by a boss.
Right.
I try and tell people, it's like you go to your normal job and you have a boss. You have to answer to somebody. And that's sort of what the Supreme Court is doing. It's not a do-over with a different judge with a different opinion. No, they're the boss. And
Right.
they're going to tell that judge whether or not they messed up or not.
so but the judge can make a mistake, make I hesitate saying bad ruling, but make a ruling that is not appropriate, or it's wrong or misinformed, and unless somebody files an appeal,
Right.
nobody knows about it, right?
That's one of the problems people struggle with. A lot of people, you know what, I actually hear arguments on both sides. From the judges, they're frustrated because they tell me, hey, this isn't fair. All these other decisions that aren't appealed are good decisions. And then there's the people, the regular people, who are like, hey, this should be worse. I had all kinds of bad things happen in my case, but I couldn't afford an appeal. And this is some of the stuff that goes into us fashioning our policy and the way that we compute the errors. We try and get it as accurate as possible, which unfortunately means, since we can't review all those other decisions because they weren't appealed, we kind of just have to assume that some of those were wrong too.
If I think, and I let's say I've seen a case, for whatever reason I've been made aware of a particular case, a particular decision, and I have no vested interest in that case whatsoever, but I think, yeah, that's not right. Can I file an appeal?
No, what you're asking about is a legal principle called standing. And so to obtain standing, you have to, generally, the general rule is that you have to be somehow individually and personally aggrieved. There are curious ways that sometimes non-parties will get involved in an appeal. For example, amicus curiae, which I think literally means friends of the court in Latin, they will sometimes step forward and ask the appellate court, hey, this is important to all of our industry.
Gotcha.
Can we pipe in here? Another way for somebody to get involved in the lower court level is to file what they call a motion to intervene. And that isn't necessarily from the approach of a friend of the court, but maybe an individual who's not been targeted by a lawsuit, but in some way will be affected by its outcome. So there are mechanisms that will get you sort of plugged into the process, but it's not automatic.
Right.
And in fact, there are some concerns out there that sometimes very important issues are brought to the appellate courts by parties or attorneys who aren't really competent or the most competent to handle those particular decisions, and then they publish, and then it frustrates that particular sector or industry because it could have been argued differently or better. These are dynamics. These
Right.
are, I guess you could say, flaws in the way the system works.
So if you, I got a million questions and I'm
Ask
trying to
them.
get one of
I
them
love
out.
the questions.
Where do you get your information? I mean,
So-
where does it come from? How do you
It comes from the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court of Nevada's websites. They publish these dispositions on their website.
So all of this information that you're putting out there is already available to the public.
It's already available, but it's not put into a presentation.
Right.
It's not been visualized.
Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the struggles that we have in connecting with the public. What I have identified are two different types of people: information divers, who on their own will go and do all the research, and they will double check us, and if we're not doing something right, they will call us out. Then you've got information skimmers, which is most of the public. Those people want a one-stop shop. They're willing to do research, but only if it's at their fingertips, it's reliable,
Right.
it's comprehensive, it's not cherry-picked, and if they don't trust you, they don't want to even bother with it. Those are the same types of people that if you tell them, do your research, you want to elect good people, they'll say, okay, yeah, we will, but they really won't. They just skip the election. So it's important, I think, to satisfy.
They ask their neighbor.
That's if you're lucky. Sometimes they don't even bother. So we're trying to.
I'm going to vote for all women this time. I'm going to vote for only people who have an R in their name,
So
if they get down that far on the ballot at all, and that's
Right.
what breaks my heart. So
Right, and that's part of the problem is to what extent should we tell them what to do, and to what extent should we give them the product that they're asking for?
Right.
And there's a balancing act there, and I think that's where we fit in.
yeah, and I think you've done an excellent job. There's one thing I wanted to bring up, and I think this goes back at least a year. I think we had a discussion about some information that came out through, or some information that was in the Review Journal.
Correct.
That you were alerted that may not have been true, or do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. That was the judicial survey conducted by.
That's it.
It was a organization within UNLV, but I can't remember the details now. And that did come up during the election a lot.
Okay.
Judges talked about it at their debates, the LVRG debates. Judge Ronald Israel denounced it as a popularity poll. Behind the scenes, I got a tremendous amount of email from the judiciary on it. They were very frustrated by it. And these are the traps that you fall into when you go into these types of mechanisms of review. It's unfortunate that it is so difficult to find a way to put together a sort of metric for competence for the judiciary.
Yeah.
But the problem is how we look at it as citizens. So with politicians, we're looking at your ideas. And if we agree with you, we support you. But with the judiciary, we're looking for competence. But the average person doesn't understand what is competence or incompetence when it comes to the legal industry, because it's so complex. And
See,
so
I don't think
why-
that's true, because I've watched SUV and all of the crime shows, so I pretty much know everything there is to know about the law. So
This is exactly what we're talking about. But yeah, that's what it is I think people do care and they do want to be involved, but when they don't know what to do, they just
They get frustrated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
So-
with it, one of the ways that I try and tell people it matters is, you put all this effort into picking politicians who you agree with, who enact statutes that you agree with, for judges to just ignore it. Is that why care that much about these four different people you elected who created the laws you wanted, if the judges just ignore it anyway?
Well, and these judges and our city council and our superintendents or county officials affect our lives more than our elected officials at the federal level.
Right.
They're the last line
Our
of defense.
everyday life, they affect everything we do.
Yeah.
So last year, I think it's been a little over a year now, you got a real feather in your cap, didn't you? You got to go into the courtrooms, you got permission to go into the courtrooms and start filming proceedings and stuff like that?
It was.
So the last time he was here, that we weren't.
Well, I
can't remember.
think at that point in time we had just begun state versus.
It was
McDonald.
just, you were just on the cusp of being able to do that.
I still remember the talk on the phone we had where it was, "Hey John, I'm getting opposition from an attorney," and you're saying, "Well, if they let you in or they don't, that's sort of their prerogative." And I'm like, "Not really. The Supreme Court
Yeah.
the Supreme Court rules will impose this on them." And it was crazy for me to actually see that through, to actually see the rule. The Supreme Court made this possible. I have to let everyone know. If it wasn't for
All
the-
right, so you're talking about the Supreme Court of the United
the
States or
Supreme
Nevada?
Court of Nevada.
Okay.
So anytime with our ONVJ, typically the context is Nevada, so I sometimes forget to mention that. But yeah, the great distinction, because that matters. The Supreme Court of the United States, I don't think really favors camera coverage at all, as far as I know. But the Supreme Court of Nevada has put together rules that impose on the judiciary the media attention, the electronic coverage. And it is actually geared towards a presumption that cameras can come in the courtroom. In fact, they've put up all these barriers and walls to get in the way of people that try and remove us. And I saw that in action.
Wait. They put barriers in the way of people who are trying to remove you. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Good. Nice.
The obstacles are actually not in our way; they're in the attorney's way.
Right.
In fact, initially we weren't sure what the judiciary would think. Most of the districts have been comfortable with us. We've had some trouble with districts 9 and 2, but the attorneys are really the ones that don't want us there. And I think a lot of them won't tell us that, but there are some who have filed objections.
Yeah.
I think we're up to 9 or 10 now.
Wow.
Most of them just
Out of
want-
how many?
Oh, out of how many cases we've covered?
Yeah.
feel
No, I
like-
mean, how many cases there are, how many attorneys there are, and
you know, it's really just 3 or 4 I can think of off the top of my head. So I don't know, maybe 25-30% of the attorneys, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So it's and there's
don't
one
want you there.
They don't want us there,
Right.
no. And those rules actually kept us in the courtroom because the judges would go through those rules and they would cite them. And that's, I mean, we have to give a lot of credit to this.
What kind of reception have you got from the judges themselves about you being there?
Initially, some specifically said they didn't see a point to it. But now, in hindsight, those same judges actually love it. They've changed their tune. I don't think they knew what we were going to do.
Right.
I think they thought we were just going to point a camera and leave and put it on YouTube. They didn't realize we were going to bring up panels and informational sidebars and who are the people. You know, really, camera coverage is about them, not us.
Right.
And I don't think that they understood that was our goal from the beginning.
I know, they thought you were like somebody else in there.
There's a lot of, not even just 1 or 2 of the main ones that we're not, I mean, I know that what you're alluding to, but there's a lot of organizations that are like that. They're just a lot smaller.
Right.
And they just want to really smear the judiciary or just attack it. And so for us, we're letting you tell your story. The litigants, the attorneys, the judge. This isn't about us. We're not trying to tell our story. And that's something that we've been consistent with from beginning to end. And that's also...
It's one of the things that impressed me, you know, and I you may not realize it, but I do follow your stuff. So my question is, so who actually goes in the courtroom and does all of this?
That would be Brittany.
So you actually take the camera in, set up everything, set up the mics and
Me
all
and
that?
generally another
You-
cameraman.
you have another
Depending
cameraman?
on whether we're broadcasting, I'll be on the computer
Right.
or the camera.
So do you actually stream from the courtroom?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that has some challenges.
Yes.
For sure.
yeah, really.
We have
Yeah.
some dead zones. I think Department 32, which is District Judge Rob Baer, and District Judge Jerry Weiss's courtrooms. They're tricky to get the internet to get
Yeah.
in there. But yeah, keep going. I mean, it's what the work that she has to do to get this to work in the courtroom on the fly with that laptop is insane.
And without creating a disturbance.
Right.
And that's the hard part.
And that's the number one goal.
Yeah.
Right?
And because you really don't want people to see you there. You know, you're trying to stay out of the way. You don't want them playing to the camera.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
so no, you're out of order.
One of our principles was discussed in the white paper was the fly on the wall principle. Is
Yeah.
that we're not there to be obnoxious and to create a scene. And in fact, I even instruct staff, which would be Brittany and the camera team, to even small things like not moving around too much and stuff, drawing the attention of the marshals and the judge in any way, shape, or form distracts them from the job that they're
Right.
there. That is a courtroom. It's not a sort of Hollywood set. And so we're not going there to try
You're
and
in their
say-
house.
Yeah, we're
Right.
not. Yeah, we're there to appreciate that we can show the public what they're doing, but not say, "Hey, look at us! How we're here." There's nothing that kind of stuff that's
Right.
obnoxious and inappropriate.
Yeah, and like I say, that's one of the things that I really do respect about what you're doing, the website and everything is there's not a lot of ego there. It's like, here's the facts, here's what it is, and you make your own judgment. What have you found was the most difficult thing for you when you first started going into the courtrooms?
So I think the first initial ones was how we were going to be perceived or accepted.
Okay.
If it was going to be a fight, or a discussion just to get into the courtroom. But that's been pretty smooth, at least in 8. And then another part was just getting the stream started. That's been difficult, as well as the volumes or the audio.
Right.
I remember calling you once trying to figure out what we were doing wrong with the audio. Everyone's like, we can't hear you. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
That's always tough.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's probably the hardest.
What-
when we go
what-
live.
And because they won't let you in the courtroom until they let everybody else in, right? You don't get to go in there ahead of time?
We do get to.
Oh,
We
you
get to
do?
go in and set
You
up,
get to
yeah.
go in and set up
We
ahead of
do,
time? Oh, well,
yes.
that's awesome
So
then.
we're usually there about a half an hour early waiting
Okay.
for those doors to come open. Because that takes a little bit less, stress off of getting it prepared. We can get the live stream going, make
Right.
sure everything's working. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
So-
the bailiffs and everybody doesn't have to worry about you once they open to the public.
Right.
So,
Right.
when was the last time you were in a courtroom filming?
Well, we did one with,
Oh, that's
it was during this,
Adam Breeden
And-
versus David Schoen and Mark DeCiero.
yeah, which was, I don't remember, April?
That sounds right.
Yeah, that's what I was
April.
going to say. So,
right.
since the shutdown or the lockdown or whatever we're calling it,
It's been
there's
home.
been nobody in the
Right,
courtrooms,
we
right?
Just do it from Zoom.
Yeah.
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 It's been interesting handling it electronically. I think the engagement is a bit weaker, but it's a lot more convenient. So
Yeah.
there's that other side of it.
Right.
Yeah. One of the nice things that you guys talked about was that we get to set up early. That's been a slight point of frustration even because those same Supreme Court rules I mentioned don't actually state that we have a right to be in there 15 minutes early. They specifically state that we have an obligation, that it's required that we're there early. Because
Really?
They don't want people tripping over cords,
Yeah.
running into our equipment. And so some courts don't know those particular rules, and so it's been frustrating for us because we don't get in, we don't get to set up, and then all that chaos occurs, and it's like, should we tell them? Are they going to get annoyed with us? It's
Right.
like, there's reasons that the Supreme Court put these rules in, but sometimes we don't know how those are going to be taken by the judge or the court staff. So that was one important thing is the setting up. It's been frantic sometimes.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
It's frantic all the time. Even
Yeah.
when we're early, I'm frantically like, be quiet.
And every
I listen. I go through the same thing here, and this is my place, and I know where everything's at. So,
Right.
and I know that's why I rarely go out and shoot stuff outside. I do it for some of my regular clients or friends or whatever, but there's too much that you can't control.
Right.
So, what has the judge's reactions been to you being in the courtroom?
The first one, Judge Israel was a little perturbed, I think. He's old school, so
Yeah.
it was a little bit more of a botherance for him. But, going forward after that, they've all been really accepting.
Great.
They usually will greet me and, hey, aren't vetted judges, or whatever it may be, but it's been a lot better since that first hurdle.
Yeah.
That first case that we covered.
I know there were a few phone calls going back and forth.
Wow.
And I think I told you once you were getting some crap from somebody, and I think I told you, well, then you're doing it right.
It's true. You're
That
not making
entire
enemies.
one, yeah.
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 And you can't help.
Yeah.
You can't help it. How about the attorneys? Have the attorneys, have you found positive
Yeah.
or negative or a mixed bag? Or
Yeah, going back to that very first one, we had, I think, our strongest objection. Frequently being called out in the courtroom, I'm doing my thing, and the attorney will turn around and point to
that was a
me.
McDonald case?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
People and the viewers were cracking up like, why do you want them not there? It just all he did was drive up traffic.
Yeah.
All those antics drove traffic up to like 3 million watch time minutes in that one case alone.
Wow.
And it's like, I guess they call it the Barbara Streisand effect or something like that. When you try and say, "Don't look at me."
Oh,
or
yeah, don't
whatever,
look at me,
Everyone
yeah.
wants to know what it is you're
Right,
trying
right.
to hide.
Yeah, nothing to see here.
yeah, so that was the strongest. After that, I don't think we really had many objections.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone's been pretty good.
But it I'm sure that comes from, okay, they know you're here, right?
Right.
And nothing bad has happened yet, so it must be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're familiar with you now, or for the
Right.
most part. So is there any indication on when you might be back in the courtrooms, or do you have any clue?
Well, I suspect for some of the criminal trials that are coming up, we're probably going to end up back in there because those involve a jury usually, and if the criminal defendant's in custody, I don't think that they can keep pushing those back. So it could be as soon as next month, maybe, if we
Well,
have some of those cases coming up.
Even if we go back to phase one?
They have to do something about those defendants in custody, and they're trying to figure out how to deal with that. I don't think that they can push those because there's that liberty interest at stake.
Right, there's a certain amount of time that they have to.
Right.
Right.
But the other cases, they'll probably continue to push or do on Zoom and stuff like that.
How do you decide, or who decides which cases you follow, or which courtrooms you go in, or, I mean, how do you make that decision?
I love this question because I get it all the time. So it used to just be me, but now I let District 3 and 9's coordinators do the same thing. So now they get to send me cases and I let them follow them and record them. District 3 is Virginia City, and she goes ahead and pivots to Reno and Dayton as well, Lyon County area. And then District 9 is Winnemucca, and I think he's willing to pivot around Humboldt County area. So generally, there's a lot of different factors for me to want to take a case. The biggest one is, what can I teach people with this particular case? That's one of the reasons why I haven't covered a murder case yet. If you go on to there's HBO series that cover this stuff, and I think there's like another, I forgot what it's called now, ID, something like that. These have mostly murder cases and stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm trying to do different things. That's why my first case was the perjury and forgery in connection to a child custody case, which is, I think, something a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
And then we have...
Have you done anything in the family courts?
One thing finally got our toe in the door, and that was the guardianship case in front of District Judge Linda Marquis. It's one of our most popular cases, if not the second most popular case right now. And I was surprised. People want to watch a guardianship case, and they are very much into it and excited. They're learning about it. There's the Puppy Plus case in Reno. There is the guy that is charged with kidnapping his own mother from a nursing home, also in Reno, Washoe County.
Wait. Kidnapping his own mother from...
That's a complicated case. She was
nursing home.
She was under the guardianship of the state, and so technically...
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was going to say...
Right.
These are interesting cases that people are wondering about that aren't really the ones that are on TV all the time.
Right.
And I wanted to avoid small claims and stuff like that because people already can see that anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to show them things that are new. And then another factor I consider is what judge is it, because I'm trying to get all of the judges some coverage to teach people about all the judges. So I'm trying to avoid a pattern where I just do the same one over and over.
Well, every judge does things a little differently, has their own way of doing things in a courtroom and stuff like that. So there was one, I was before a judge, Susan Falconi. Falconi, yeah, I think that's how her name is pronounced, for a traffic violation. And there was probably 10 people ahead of me. And I was sitting there watching her go through these people, and I thought to myself, I'm going to vote for her. I don't give a shit what she does. I don't care, whether she finds me guilty. I was impressed by the way she treated every one of the people that stood in front of her. She treated them with respect. I thought she was fair. I thought she was what I would want a judge to be. And I don't know if she's still...
She is.
Yeah.
She actually got some coverage as a witness in our coverage of the Commission on Judicial Discipline's case against another judge. And so she testified, I believe, in defense of that judge. So we haven't covered her on the stand, but we've covered her in the role of a witness in proceedings where they actually had...
I'm going to invite her to be a guest. I sent, after I got through, after my case was heard, and I thought, I was guilty. There was no doubt about it, and that's what I told her. And she, like I said, I thought she was fair. She was, she didn't cut me any slack, but she didn't cut me off at the knees either. I felt that my sentence, the fine, was perfectly justified.
Right.
And so afterwards, and this was around election time at the time. This was 100 years ago now, it seems like. I sent her an email, and I told her my story. I said, hey, I was impressed with you. I was, appeared before you, and I thought you did the right thing, and blah, 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 and just basically what I told you. Not expecting anything, and I got an email back from her.
That's great.
And said, wow, thank you, really, really, thank you very much. I'm about to go in for an interview in a couple days. Can I use your email?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, sure, go ahead. But, and I've seen some other judges that I thought, some of them are gone now, and I think one of the biggest mistakes we made was, I don't know if you remember Judge Halverson. And that, I think that was the judge, that was the thing that got me started on, holy crap, we need to pay attention to who we're voting for. And there's no information out there. And so, anyway, but yeah, I think it'd be cool to have Judge Falconi on here. I don't know if that's.
Did you ask her?
Pardon me?
You asked her to come?
No, I'm going to.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. And the only reason I've hesitated is with everything that's going on,
Right,
God,
right.
it's but also I'm not sure if it's ethical. I don't see that there's any. I mean, I got nothing to gain or lose by interviewing her, and so.
The rule of thumb is that they just can't talk about their cases.
Yeah, no. I don't want her to talk about her cases.
That's the only
Unless it's
thing.
my case and I can, and I give her permission, but,
Yeah.
it was a stupid traffic ticket.
Yeah,
And
of
that was,
course,
and I knew as soon as I got pulled over, I thought, what am I gonna do? So what's the most fun that you have in the courtroom? What is it that when you go in there and you think, oh, this is cool, I like, is there
it's
something
always-
about your experience in there that you really, really like?
It's nice to be right there. A lot of time when I'm live, it's hard to pay attention to everything that's going on.
Right.
When I do start to pay attention, it's just fascinating to see how it all works. I love to sit through jury selection, all of the whole entire process. I'm learning a lot from it. Before this, I was just, full-time student, stay-at-home mom. So
Yeah.
it's huge change. I'm just learning a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's too bad you didn't get to cover my jury selection. So you will appreciate this, and those of you who know me will appreciate it too. I went in for jury duty. Go in there and you get where they do the selection and they ask you questions and all that stuff. I was a real pain in the ass. Number one, I have a problem hearing. I don't hear that well. So, anybody, yeah, that's me. And so they give you the headphones and, anybody, yeah, that's me, so sorry. And it was a case involving cannabis. And it was an old guy, probably not quite my age, but pretty close, who had a medical marijuana card, but the amount of cannabis that he had, wasn't a lot, but they said, oh yeah, well, he was selling it. That's what he was charged with. And the judge asked, so is there anybody in here that, feels like they can't? And I go, yeah, I raise my head. And she goes, so are you telling me that you can't put your personal beliefs aside to make a decision on this case? And I said, well, Your Honor, they're my personal beliefs. How can you ask me to put them aside?
Yeah.
And so, needless to say, I wasn't on that jury.
Yeah.
I think they both, the defense and the prosecution, said, no, get rid of this guy. So, anyway.
It's been very interesting. That's one of the things I wish we could cover, and we might do it someday. People would be curious about jury selection, but we would have to have the camera off.
Yeah, and that's the problem is because that's supposed to be. I mean, you're not supposed to. And when you're in that, thank you for reminding me of that. When you're in the courtroom, you're not allowed
no.
to show the jury if there is a jury there or anything, right?
We try to avoid them at all costs.
Right.
When they're moving in and out of the courtroom, we'll zoom in and out. We usually go up to the seal.
Right.
Yeah, we avoid them
Okay.
as much as possible. I'm actually super protective. So I'm like looking at the cameraman.
Well,
constantly.
and you don't want to be doing that kind of thing, because then that ruins, okay, you guys no more. You can't come in here anymore.
Right,
So
exactly.
So how long have you actually been doing it now?
I was just asking him. I think it's been a year. I think
Yeah.
McDonald was July of last year.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
So it's a year.
Been about a year.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's next? What is the next step for you,
This is a
for
great
our
question.
Nevada judges?
This is a great question, but I think it's to continue to cover cases. Actually, I have a better answer than that. I want to cover.
Oh, good. I like the
cases-
better answers.
Yeah.
Don't give me the second rate, once you got in your back pocket already. Give me some good ones in.
I want to cover the cases in every single district court, every single justice court. That's the goal. We're trying
Okay.
to get a camera in every single district and every single justice court. And
Wait. Are you saying simultaneously?
No.
Or you just want to, okay, I've hit all the courts now?
I think that's our first goal, and then we'll move on from there. Maybe get a case in front of every single judge, because it's been always about educating the public.
Right.
So that means not just about our Las Vegas judges or our Reno judges or our Supreme Court. It's our Nevada judges.
And it's
all
not
of them.
even just Nevada. We're actually hoping to get it farther out than that.
And
right?
that's a great point.
Yeah.
The Judicial Scrutiny Project is what she's talking about, which would encompass all 50 states.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going to be something that's extreme long term. So that is already under work. We're in the works for that. We have about 15 other state sites up right now.
Cool. What kind of feedback are you getting from the judges? Are you getting any about the website? Not about being in the courtroom, but about the website itself.
Yeah, we get a lot of feedback, and I'm finally starting to get feedback from different districts now. So it's not just Clark. I'm getting some contacts in different districts, and the Supreme Court they have given overwhelmingly positive feedback to me.
Really?
Multiple justices, more than half of them have. And so that's, of course, letting us know we appreciate you, keep going, And, of course, the Supreme Court letting us broadcast from the Supreme Court of Nevada twice.
Yeah, that was big.
Well, it was big because it squashed one of the big objections, which
Yeah.
people were saying we weren't considered news reporters.
Right.
So that just annihilated that one, and it made it a lot easier for us to get into other courtrooms because it's harder to get rid of us when the Supreme Court lets us do it.
Yeah.
So that's one big plus there. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of plans, but for now, I would say every district.
Have you been in the courtroom when you've had one of the news stations in or come in or something? Have you had anything where?
No, not yet. I know one time I was covering a case before they were covering a case. So I came in and I saw their equipment set up, and I'm like, uh-oh.
That was Darcy
Yeah.
Spears. She was
Yeah.
there with us. And
Well, she used to do. I mean, she was the one
Yeah.
that was always going into the courtroom.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was, I think, our first or second. Oh, no, that was the one with Bruce Gale versus Stephanie Miley. It was a protective order lawsuit. That's where and they were really polite.
Right.
But that was District 8, which is Clark. District 2, which is Washoe, we got a sort of different reception. And that was with the media up there in Washoe County, and they were kind of like, maybe you should find another case. We don't know where you're going to fit. And so
Yeah.
they weren't being like, get out of here, we don't like you. But they were at the same time trying to say, nudge, maybe
Yeah.
do this case over here.
there's one over there that's really great. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's different areas have different sort of, or different companies respond differently to our presence.
Yeah. So now I lost my complete train of thought. So we're going to take a no.
Commercial break.
No. I remember what it was now. Have you had any judges contact you and saying, "Man, you're full of crap. This isn't right. That stuff that you got about me is all,
Yes, we have. But they're not rude like that. What they usually try and do is get us or get me to alter the policy to sort of make them look better. And it's not even just judges, but legislators. And that was kind of...
Wait. Legislators
Yeah,
want you to change your policies so the judges don't look so bad?
exactly. Sorry, but it's the truth. So...
I know what I'd be telling them.
So these sorts of emails are actually what led me to publishing the policy, because I wanted to kind of nip that in the bud.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, and not only did I publish the policy, but I published an important video that explained why we're computing the statistics this way. It's not to make them look good or look bad. It's not to target some judges or others. It's to let people know that this is an area of concern and this is what's actually going on,
Yeah.
for better or for worse. And not all of the judges have 40-50% error rates. Some of them have 8 or 9. This is meant to sort of get people thinking. And it's not so much meant to say this person's bad and this person's good.
Right.
That's up to the voters to
Well,
decide on their own.
and I think that you pointed this out to me last year, and that is that just because a judge's decision is overturned doesn't mean that they made a mistake or they did a bad thing. They may not have had all the information at the time.
Right. There are counterbalances to that,
Right.
though. So I mean, in the most extreme situation where I think you're definitely right is where they publish what they call a novel question of law, where it really is a tough call. It's really close, and those ones are as far away from a mistake as possible. But not all of those are necessarily, oh, I can see how you made that mistake. A lot of those, they're just questions of interpreting how different statutes interplay, and there are doctrines out there on that.
Right.
So it's not just every published case. But for the other cases that aren't published, the judges have a tremendous amount of latitude. For example, the findings they make on facts, they get deference on. So the Supreme Court doesn't say, well, that witness sounded more believable, you're wrong. They will defer. They won't reweigh the credibility of the witnesses. They won't reweigh the evidence. They know that that's the job of the jury and the judge, so they don't intervene there. A lawyer will sometimes not tell them the law. If the lawyer doesn't tell the judge what the law was and they make a mistake, that's waived.
Yeah.
That's waived unless it's what they call plain error, which is an error so obvious that any judge would have known.
Right.
That
means stop.
There is harmless error. So there's judges that make mistakes, but they say it wouldn't have affected the decision. Those affirm. And these are things that are discussed in the policy and on the video that say, we're not just out there to bash them. They have on the other side, on this other scale, they have a lot of stuff that helps them. Deference on the facts, harmless error, waiver when a lawyer doesn't tell them. So it's not really what people think. They're not getting dinged on everything.
Yeah. Well, we had a judge in here on another show last year, and one of the hosts on that show had asked her if she was aware of our Nevada judges. And she goes, no, I've never heard of it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this was a year ago, so you were still in your infancy. I mean, I knew about you, but that's only because I know somebody who knows somebody.
Right.
And when we told her what her error rate was, she spent the next 45 minutes after that show over on my computer. I was showing her the website and how all this stuff and how this stuff went. And I said, if you think there's a mistake there, contact them.
Yeah, it took her a while, but she actually did.
Oh, did she?
It took her a very long time, and I think it's because of her election. So she did contact me, and we worked some things out. She pointed out 2 or 3 things on the social media that she felt were wrong, and she was right, so they were removed.
Awesome. So see, so the system works.
Yeah, it does.
Cool. Well, she was livid. I mean, and it's.
Well,
she
their
said,
first instinct is I'm being attacked because most of the
that's
time.
That's exactly right. She goes, this really makes me look bad.
Most of the time they are being attacked by external groups. Most of the time people are there to manipulate them. They're not there to facilitate contact with the public. So these concerns are valid. And so we don't really resent that we have to do all this work to get them to realize we're not trying to do that. We understand that's just a part of what this situation's really toxic. All of the other organizations that review judges have personal reviews. They're riddled with attacks. Nobody really cares if they made a decision that was right or wrong. Most of the people who post are people who lost a case. And so for them to see something completely different, I don't even think that they think it's possible. There's one attorney who told me that he tries to explain to them that our Nevada judges is unbiased, and they're like, social media news that's impossible. There is no such thing. And it's like, I understand it, It was nice for her to finally reach out and for me to finally, show this particular judge. We don't want inaccurate stuff.
That makes me really happy.
Yeah.
That really, really does, because I thought when she left here, and I thought, God, I hope she said something about, I can't contact them. That would be a conflict of interest. And I was trying to think, I don't see that. I don't get it. Maybe there's something there that, if you criticize a judge, they can't come back at you for something. But
I know what she's talking about. This is actually a valid point. The judicial canons tell the judges that you have to be very careful with how you communicate with non-attorneys and the media, because even if you don't intend it to be, you can come off as intimidating.
Right.
And so even if you don't intend to twist their arm, it may inadvertently occur. And I think it took a long time for me to get the reputation so that the judges realize he's not going to be scared, he's going to tell me no. And once that sort of is established, they're more willing to talk to me. And I do think that is actually a valid concern. It does scare people, and it would make people want to pull things down and change things. I can completely understand that concern. And then there's also this other problem that a lot of the people who post things on judges have cases in front of the judges. And so before they even contact you, they have to check and see if you're in their courtroom.
Right.
Because it'll trigger a recusal.
Right.
And that's problematic for them. And there is some defense to this particular judge. I think she's on one of those complex business court types of cases. not every judge is created equal. Some of them have a different workload that is scrutinized a lot more thoroughly. So like the criminal judges get typically better error rates because so many of those appeals are long shots, but the prisoner wants to get out, so they'll take a long shot.
Right.
Family court, you have hardly any appeals. It's a ridiculous disparity. And so the judges
Wait. You're saying not that there isn't an opportunity for appeal, it's just that,
very few are filed.
right.
And so the judges get very little feedback, and so they make more mistakes. And then you've got and these are things that I notice. I'm not defending them, I'm just
Right.
giving information to people.
Right.
And then you've got the business court civil area where you've got $1 million corporations, and they're just on it. They're like, you messed up, overturn that.
Right.
So these are all factors for people to consider. I'm hoping more people talk about these things. I can't change the policy right now, but I can get people to talk about these things and to care.
That's great, and I appreciate that. I know it's helped me a lot in being able to make some decisions in the primary, of course. And there was also some judges in there that I thought, oh, whew, that was close. But and it's as just regular old people, we really don't have a clue. I mean, we think that. Oh wow! Well, they've been an attorney for this long, and they know the law and blah blah blah. But I'm amazed at this is my perception, and from things that I've heard, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Most judges don't have time to read through the cases that are being presented in front of them.
You not only are you absolutely right, but we see correlations in the data between the busy districts and the rural districts.
Okay.
Less errors are coming from the rural districts, and more are coming from 8 and 2, which are the big ones, and 1, which is Carson. And I didn't speak with Judge James Wilson directly. It was like at a forum, and there was like a Zoom with lots and lots of people, and I pointed that out, and he says, you know what, you're absolutely right. We need more time and resources.
Right.
And the public doesn't really understand that. They don't connect these two things. With lack of funding and resource means a lack of justice. And they need more support, more departments, more help, more time.
And less cases.
Well, that definitely would be a factor too.
Yeah.
And there are different ways that they can deal with that. They already do deal with that in some ways. I don't know if we want to get too technical. I'll avoid that for now, but
Okay.
there's a lot of things that they need to
Are you saying I'm not smart enough to?
Well, they're
no,
kind
no,
of- it's-
no. I'm
Yeah.
dude. I'm teasing you. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. Please don't go there. We only have so much time.
Right.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was my full answer. Is you're right. The judiciary needs more resources. The same complaints that I get from the public on our Nevada judges. They want us to have original media, reporters, articles that we produce. We can't. We don't have the resources.
I was going to say, who's going to fund that?
Nobody.
Where are you gonna get the money for
It's going to
that?
take time for that.
I mean, all of the stuff that you're doing is strictly voluntary, right?
It's mostly volunteer. The camera people we pay. They're the
Oh,
only
okay.
people we pay, and we have to pay for equipment. So we send equipment. We've sent equipment to District 3, and she's really excited to use it. We're going to send some really good stuff to District 9.
Cool.
These are great people, Glenn Baker and Christine Toasty, who are holding up the northern end. The northern end of the state would be
Wow.
completely uncovered without their assistance. The other thing that I was going to mention was the Commission on Judicial Discipline. People tell me all the time they're corrupt, they don't review enough cases. Guys, they don't have it. I think they have like a $1 million budget. I'm guessing, but it's so low. How is the Commission on Judicial Discipline supposed to handle all these complaints and prosecute all of these judges with that amount of money?
Yeah.
And it impacts their ability to help. So if you want the judiciary to do more, you have to give them more. If you want the commission to do more, you have to give them more. If you don't give them more, they're going to just
They're doing the best they
stumble,
can with what they've got to work with.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's another side effect that I hope comes from educating the public on what goes on in the courtrooms and stuff.
Well, education is a big topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you got a couple of kids in school, right?
Mhm, we have
Well,
one.
they're not in school now.
Right. They'll probably do the split where they're 2 days a week and then home.
Are they are still going to go ahead and open it up in August?
It sounds like they're giving plans, like 3 options. Go ahead if you want to go into
And I
it.
think they pushed it back. Army was supposed to start the 10th, and now it's the 24th. So that'll be interesting.
How do you feel about that as a
Um,
mother, as a father?
About what specifically?
About having your kid attend public school.
I think that the split is okay.
Okay.
I don't mind him.
How old,
there 2
how old
days.
is your child?
13. He'll be 14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's not
That's
too
different than
bad.
the young ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a lot
I mean,
harder.
how do you keep an 8-year-old with
I
a
know.
mask on and 6
Right.
feet away from their friends?
Yeah.
That's
It's
the
gonna
thing
be-
that bothers me and worries me.
And a big part of that was him, because we asked him, would you just want to stay home the whole time? And I thought he would say yes, no. He's like,
Yeah.
no, I want to go back to school.
Well, that's why I went to school. That's where you find out where all the parties are.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great question. It's the coronavirus is impacting everything right now. So,
I think it's there is some positive impact in the sense that I think we have all taken another look at what we do, how we do it, you know, where can we make some adjustments. Oh, I really didn't need that, you know. I was doing that before. Why? I'm not going to do that now. So I hope there's more people that are going through that. I mean, I know I am. So, and it's when prior to this recently here, I had tried Skype, WhatsApp, all of these others, even Zoom, and it didn't work that well. Now, when Zoom came out with their upgrade on the 5.0, it seamlessly just melded right into my system. And so we've been doing Zoom interviews. In fact, we did one last Saturday, with a young Israeli soldier who was in quarantine, thought that she had the coronavirus, had a really, really bad cough. I mean, tore her throat up. I mean, literally tore her throat up from coughing. And so we just found out she's out of quarantine as of day before yesterday. She tested negative. It was just bronchitis. But they had her in quarantine, and I mean, it was really nasty. They put her up in this resort hotel with a view overlooking the ocean. You know, they brought her meals. It was
Where
kind of
was
like
this at?
being in Israel.
Oh.
So you know, we were zooming her in
Yeah.
and a couple out of California, and just kind of talking about the different ways everybody's handling all of this stuff. And I had a couple questions that I wanted to make sure I asked you, and because I talk so much, I forgot them. So
it's okay, go ahead.
I know, I'm trying to remember 'em. That's why I'm talking about all this other crap. So, so do you think that you found your niche
My niche.
going into the courtroom? I mean, do you think that this is something that it's like, wow, this is cool. I really want to do this a
You
lot.
know what? It was never on my radar, ever. But now that I've started, I really do love it, and I'm looking forward to the time I can devote more of my attention to it,
Right.
more full time, because I'm in school still. So it's like
Yeah.
we're still trying to figure out the logistics as things start getting back to normal. But I guess you could say a niche.
I still remember the text she sent me. So I was so ignorant about, I mean, I thought I knew everything about court because I was our Nevada judges guy and I had all these. So I didn't know that trials take multiple days. That's how ignorant I was.
What?
And so I didn't know that. So I thought it was like a 1-day trial for the McDonald. And then I go in there and I found out it's another 4 days. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. So I said, if you can't do this, then we're done for. So she goes in and starts to go day 2, day 3, and I get a text from her, and she's like, "Oh my God, I love this. I have never loved."
You had called me about that or shared that
When I
text with me,
just-
because I thought she's hooked.
I just was, it lit up because
Yeah.
she never really had a job that she loved.
Right.
And this was just sort of an emergency. Like, I have to go to work. I can't do this every day.
Right.
And she just swooped in, and not only was she doing it to help, but then she ended up loving it.
That's great.
So
And a lot of our Nevada judges, there's not a whole lot for me to do. I don't have the legal background. I can't sit at the computer all the time like him and get stuff done.
Right.
I got
Yeah.
the household, the kid, the dogs. The
You have
school.
life.
Right. So I support him to get that done, but it's so nice to be able to really help now.
Okay, so
Serious.
without getting yourself or anybody else in trouble, what's the funniest thing you've seen in a courtroom?
Oh, the funniest thing. I'd have to think about that. So I think the funniest thing would probably be in between filming and listening to the attorneys just babble back and forth. It's pretty funny.
Okay.
You get a different side of them than when
Right.
the camera's rolling.
Yeah, because they go have a beer afterwards, but they're fighting like cats
Yeah.
and dogs, and they,
So that's pretty funny. The bailiffs are awesome.
yeah.
They're great. I have not met a bailiff that is not just awesome and funny, inviting. There's one that constantly, you can hear him throughout the courtroom. You can hear in his pocket, he's got his hands in there and he's unwrapping candy constantly.
What about
It's like you can tell where he's sitting because you hear the rustling of the paper. It's
Here's a
so
funny
funny.
what about the bailiff who wanted to be unblurred?
Oh, right. So,
He says, "Can you blur me?" Because he doesn't know who we are. Next time we come back, hey, can you unblur me?
I don't know why I asked you to blur me.
What about the one where the attorneys aren't there and everyone's late, and the judge goes, "Our Nevada judges is here, but the lawyers aren't." That was fun. There was one where she got winked at by the judge.
Oh, by the judge?
Yeah, I don't want to mention but it's just like the little things that they show us that shows how much they like
They
us.
appreciate
there,
us
yeah.
being there.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Overwhelmingly positive, the coverage
And
is for the judges.
that really makes me feel good, because there is so much. We need that transparency right now with everything else that's going on. It's good to know that we've got that here in Vegas. That we're not going to have the border patrol in here arresting everybody.
Well, on the way up here, I was just talking to Brittany in the car about how everyone has to earn trust, including the government, including the judiciary.
Everybody has their what?
They have to earn the trust of the public.
Oh yeah,
That's not something that you're just entitled to.
yeah,
You can't just say, "I'm the government, you have to trust me or you're an idiot."
yeah.
There's certain things that you have to do to earn it, and it takes a long time.
And it's too bad most of them don't realize that.
Doesn't seem like it. They
Yeah.
just think because they're the government that people who don't listen are just
Dude,
dumb.
they worked for us,
Right.
right?
True, yeah.
They work for us.
Right?
They forgot that a long time ago.
Yeah.
But they're gonna remember it. So I'm not getting political, not today. No. So,
We've been really good about it, even in other interviews, not getting into the political side because of our role and how
Right.
important it is to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, you have to. I mean, I'm old enough. I don't give a shit anymore. This is how I feel. This is my belief, and I'm not going to overturn my belief. And I mean, there are situations like now. I'm not going to get into all that crap, but. And when I was doing, and I'm trying to get it going again, if I get some time, is I was doing the show called Meet the Candidates. And I was inviting anyone who was running for any office, regardless of their party affiliation, come in, I'll give you 30 minutes of free camera time. We can talk about why should people vote for you. And in some instances, it was extremely, extremely hard for me to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
and it's like, because I want to give them an opportunity to say, this is why you should vote for me. This is what I believe.
Right.
And I want the people out there to make the decision. I don't want to blindside anybody or do a gotcha interview or anything like that. And that's why I started it. The judge thing is what made me start doing that, because that's where I felt we needed the most education.
We do.
And I'm surprised that I haven't gotten more response from more judges, and I think they're just afraid.
It's also it's strategic too. You have two sides of that coin. Part of it is they're afraid because they don't know if they're going to get in trouble.
Right.
And then the other part is the strategic side, is that with judicial races, the least amount of information people know is usually going to be an instant victory for the incumbent. That's why there's some candidates who came on to our Nevada judges, some judges who really stood out to me as remarkable people because they didn't have to do that, in my opinion.
Right.
There were a couple of incumbent judges that I put on camera, asked questions to, and I just thought these guys are really brave because, I mean, it's almost it's like a situation where they put educating the public over their strategic sort of political tactical
Right.
maneuvering. And it just stood out to me, and I was watching those outcomes. I was hoping, please.
Did you vote for them?
Well, I can't say,
No, I
but I was hoping, I was crossing my fingers that all of the judges and candidates who came on our show would do well, because I was concerned, what if my good intentions are going to backfire?
Right.
What if I want to help these people and I make things worse for them? And then the results came out.
Yeah, what if 90% of the candidates that came on your show never got elected?
And it's
the kiss of death.
It's unfortunate because I'm there to help, and it doesn't really matter what my intentions are if in reality I destroyed these campaigns or these particular.
Right.
But it didn't happen. The results came out, and most of the candidates who were on did fantastic.
Yeah.
2 of the candidates won outright. Just 50% plus, they're done. They're elected. So it was good for me to see that insecurity, I guess you could say, squash when those results came out, because I do want to give them a voice, give them show the public their perspective, but at the same time I don't want to damage their careers.
Right. Well, I'd like to ask a favor of you, and that is, with your contact with these judges and anybody that that is running for office, encourage them to get a hold of me, and I'll give them an opportunity to to tell their story and why we should vote for them. And I'm not, like I say, I'm not there to ambush anybody. I sincerely want to know about this judge, because it'll help me as well in making my decision. So
yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. When your video publishes, I'll post it up and I'll put that notice.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Anything else that you'd like to say before we get done today?
I feel like we got everything covered that I could think of.
Cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Oh,
I do.
listen, dude, I told you, anytime you've got anything you want to talk about, all you got to do is pick up the phone. I'm here. And I thank you for coming in. I know we had this planned months ago,
Right.
and I don't remember what happened or whatever, but you chickened out, and
Probably, actually.
but I'm really impressed with the work that you're doing in the courtrooms and the videos that I've seen, and the quality of the work that you're putting out. You should be really proud.
Thank you.
Because not having any experience and just getting thrown into this, you're doing awesome.
Thank you.
So, and you're going to learn something every time you do it. Every single time you're going to learn something else. And that's the cool thing about it.
And I'll
So
always have you to call.
you can call me anytime.
Okay.
I may not answer. No, and I may lie to you. No. And you, and if I don't answer right away, I'm either doing this, or sometimes if I'm in the middle of editing and I'm in a very place I don't want to stop, but I will always call you back, don't I?
Yeah.
Okay,
You always
cool.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was one other question, and that is that the information, how are you getting that information from their website? I mean, are you on there writing down all this
No.
stuff? Are you copy and
It's
pasting?
impossible. I love that you asked that question, because I get that question all the time. I write software. I have minions, computers that do it all, most of it, not all of it. The programs that I've written will automatically communicate with. Think of it as
So you're mining the data.
data mining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And basically, how frequent is the information updated?
Every day,
Wow. No kidding.
once a day. Yeah. I got asked that question by a reporter, Dana Gentry, and she published it. She published me in her paper twice, actually. One time she quoted me directly, and then the other time she didn't, but she still went over all of the error rates.
Right.
She had a lot of questions about those error rates.
Do you think that publishing that, in your opinion, has had an effect on the quality of the work that the judges are now doing?
Definitely.
Really?
That's not even a doubt to me. I've seen it over the course of the last 2 years alone.
Wow.
Yeah. It's definitely having an impact. I want to do a report on it and show downward trends in error rates,
Okay.
because I'm noticing that. So
When you do that, will you come back?
Yeah, sure, I'll come back. We can
Yeah, we'll talk about
it.
the report and what you found and
Yeah,
all
it's
that good
definitely
stuff.
having an impact.
Yeah.
I
That's awesome.
I published something in
How many people get to say that? I mean, look at the lives that you guys are affecting. I mean, if our judges are making better decisions, they're more aware of what they're doing, they're taking the time to make better decisions. Look how many people you've affected, man.
It's a lot, and that's
That's
one of the
awesome.
things that keeps me from quitting. Sometimes I,
Yeah, I know.
well,
I-
I love to write code, and I don't. This is the first time I've worked on the same project for so long. Usually, I get bored and I want to do another
Yeah.
project. But as long as this continues to show its effectiveness, I'll continue to put resources into it.
Nice.
And I sometimes will use like an analogy where, in the beginning, I was kind of like pushing this cart, and now it's like the cart's upgraded and has jets on it and just pulls me now. It's just yanking me along, and I'm just dangling in the wind. The thing is just taken off. It's got a mind of its own now, and it's gone from almost a hobby to an obligation. But it's not negative. It's more of a duty. I guess I could use that word.
Okay, this is one of the questions that I wanted to ask earlier and we got sidetracked. On the candidates that appear on your site, what information about them are you putting out to the public?
So that would
Because
be,
they're not judges.
right. So that would be the articles, the endorsements, their scholarly writings, their awards, and most importantly, the disciplines.
Okay.
In fact, I say most importantly because it's almost a tragedy. In the past, I mean, people care about disciplines. Voters care about that. When somebody's been reprimanded, when somebody's been fined, they want to know. But unfortunately, the way that ordinary media works is, in computer science, we call it view-driven, more specifically in web development.
Right.
View-driven approaches are not efficient because whatever's on top of the stack is what people see.
Right.
And so as you add things on top and you get down to
It
a
gets
year
buried.
ago, people don't know what happened. And so we have the data-driven approach. That's what our Nevada Judges uses. So instead of just focusing on what's happening now, we do cover that in our social media funnels, but the site itself, which is like the sort of spinal cord of the organization, that has all of the things that have happened. And the disciplines, I think, are the most important thing for the public to see because they definitely care about that. I have not heard one voter say, yeah, I don't mind that person got publicly reprimanded as an attorney for ripping two people off. And that stuff affects people. It upsets them. They want to know that. So that's one of the big things.
Yeah, I had an attorney a few years back that basically went out of business.
Wow.
It was a bankruptcy deal, and turned out that all the money wasn't going where it was supposed to go.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, these are problems that they're real problems that
Yeah.
you know.
have you had any of the judges or any of the candidates during election time ask you to endorse them?
Yes.
Really?
So it's not that common that it occurs. If they don't ask, we won't even consider it because that's not the point of our Nevada Judges. If they do ask and it's a justice of the peace or a municipal court judge, then we'll consider it. And we have a process for it because we don't have any other error rates. We can't
Yeah,
ask.
you don't really have any information about them because
Right. And we're trying to get that, but we need the government to change the way that data is accessed on the local court websites.
All right, so you say the government. Be a little more specific. Who needs who in the government?
So
You
it
know,
could
the
be-
assessor's office?
It could
or-
be it could be done one or two ways. I think the best approach would be through the legislature. They could pass an act that would force this data to be compiled in a certain way.
Okay.
So right now, the Supreme Court of Nevada just kindly publishes all of this stuff on their website for free. I don't see anything anywhere that obligates them to do it. They just do it because it's the right thing to do. And because of that, we can track all that data. But to get access to the appeals for the justices of the peace and the municipal court judges, we have to get access to the district court websites.
Gotcha.
And so there's a few ways that it could be done. It could be done either by the Supreme Court themselves. They could just create some more rules and force the lower courts to do what they're supposed to do. In my opinion, it's 2020. It's time for this stuff to be online everywhere.
Yeah.
These are public courts. This stuff should be online for free. I don't
Yeah.
know why it's not. That to me is disturbing. And the other way would be for the legislature.
And that's the other thing that there is no subscription fee or anything like that. Everything that you're doing, it is free to the public.
Right. I don't charge that. That would
yeah.
be no. I don't do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're about wrapping this up here. Brittany, is there anything that you'd like to tell the people out there?
No.
You want to say hello to any
Watch
relatives
our
or anything?
videos. Check it out. Check out the site
Where do they go? Where can I go watch your videos?
on our Nevada Judges YouTube,
Okay.
and we have a link to it, I believe, on ournevadajudges.com.
Okay.
And you can also see our page on Facebook.
Okay, so I can set up alerts with your YouTube channel that lets me know
absolutely, yeah.
you got this coming up and all
And a
that stuff.
Twitter feed.
We also have our coverage schedule. There's a lot of ways you can find these details. Yeah, coverage
Just type
schedules
in
on the
Alex
website.
Falconi.
Cool. So, do you have anything exciting coming up that we should be watching for?
Oh
or?
yeah, Monday's gonna be huge. It's
Monday?
the,
Right.
unemployment battle between the PUA claimants and the government. The Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation.
Right.
That's
Dieter.
going to be huge. That one was so big that the court's Zoom system exploded when they tried to all go on there. Yeah.
Wow.
It just didn't
Yeah.
work. It was too many people. It couldn't handle it. And so we're doing that one live. And hopefully people don't go on to the court Zoom, please, because it'll fill up. Go on to our Nevada Judges live stream, or if you don't like us, go on some other media's thing. Don't go to the Zoom because it just fills up.
Well,
We had-
it's something that everybody wants to figure out what's going on.
Right. And then if they all clog up the Zoom, then the lawyers can't get into it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you again. And like I said, I mean it sincerely. Anytime you got anything, you need anything, come on back, let me know, and you're always welcome here. I am extremely impressed with what you're doing. I think that, man, we need more people like that. You know, it's the information is important. And I would urge all of you to go to the website, ournevadajudges.com. Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you
That's
so
it?
much for having
You
us.
all done?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, cool. Well, thank you all for coming back and watching us. We do appreciate it. Thanks for supporting the station. Thanks for supporting our shows here, all of the other shows. And remember, if you're going to do it with styles.
Nice work, John.